G'day, I'm Paul. So Ford has just announced pricing for the Ranger plug-in hybrid ute, and as I expected, it is expensive. And I'm going to run through some of the key specs that have also come out now, which makes me think this thing could be an absolute dud, and why I think that Ford has completely underestimated its Chinese competitors. So let's start off with pricing. As expected, it is expensive. Starts at just under $72,000 for the plug-in hybrid XLT. So entry level goes all the way up to just under 87 grand for the Storm Track, which is the top specification version of the plug-in hybrid. It ends up being about 5 grand more expensive than the V6 diesel equivalent of these vehicles. Now, look, 5 grand is probably not that bad. The problem is, though, the rest of the competitors. We've already seen pricing now from GWM for the Canon Alpha at around the $60,000, $63,000 mark, and of course pricing for the BYD Shark at under $60,000. I mean, it just shows you that both of those vehicles with significantly bigger batteries are significantly cheaper than the Ranger, and I think you can only trade on that nameplate for so long. Where it gets even worse, though, is the specifications, and this kind of blew me away. A little while back, we caught up with John Cadogan and we ran through Shark versus Canon Alpha versus Ford Ranger, and we sort of mused that the Ford Ranger would probably be the best option for those who want all of the punch, because it's got the lightest battery, it's also got the lightest body, presumably, and it also has the backup of a 2.3 litre turbocharged EcoBoost petrol engine. Well, that was all under the assumption that Ford was going to run that EcoBoost engine at its natural output, which is over 200 kilowatts of power. I got the specs today and almost fell off my chair. They've detuned it by almost 100 kilowatts of power. So the internal combustion engine alone will only make 138 kilowatts of power. Now, for reference, that is marginally more than the BYD Shark. Now, the BYD Shark, when we plugged it up to our trailer dyne, struggled with 3 kilonewtons of load, and it has a rated towing capacity of 1,000 kilos less than the Ranger at 2,500 kilos versus 3,500. So Ford is going to be asking this vehicle to perform the same job as the Shark when the battery is empty, with around the same amount of power, except with the capability of towing another 1,000 kilos extra, which is actually insane. And to think that this is going to hit that edge case of the battery being expired much quicker as well, because the Ranger uses an 11.8 kilowatt hour battery. It's over 20 kilowatt hours less than the Canon, and significantly less than the BYD Shark. So you're going to achieve that edge case much quicker when that battery expires. So I think Ford is in a lot of trouble with these specs and what they've been boasting, which is exceptional capability. In fact, I sat down with the boss of Ford's IMG markets, which is basically the international market group. It services all markets outside of the United States and China. And I said to her, why would anyone buy a Ranger over the GWM or the BYD Shark? And this is before I knew the pricing. And she said, they haven't compromised on what a Ranger is and what a Ranger delivers, and they've added the functionality of a plug-in hybrid battery to the existing Ranger. And I'm sort of paraphrasing there, but that's what she said. Well, to me, this seems like a massive compromise, because not only have you gutted that petrol engine to achieve these lofty fuel economy figures, you're probably going to end up in the same scenario as we did with the BYD Shark, where when that battery runs out, you're going to be left with a very heavy vehicle that simply cannot keep up with the load that it's towing. Now, you might think to yourself, well, smaller battery must mean that it's lighter, right? Not quite. If you go to the top spec, Storm Track, which is comparable to the BYD Shark in terms of specifications, we're talking about a maximum curb weight of 2,705 kilos. BYD Shark is 2,710. So you're saving 5 kilos. And I don't know where this mass has gone, because the battery is like less than half the size. I just cannot understand how it's so heavy with such a small battery. And it could just be that they've taken virtually an internal combustion Ranger and added this electric motor between the engine and the transmission. But if you jump over to the GWM Canon Alpha, it's got the same principles. Internal combustion engine, electric motor, and then an enormous 37 kilowatt hour battery. Yet this has a curb weight of 2,775, which is only marginally higher than the Ranger. The other thing that blew me away as well, and this sounds like it's a highly critical video, but I've just seen so many things here that have just astonished me. If you look at the features list, you've got a spare tyre as optional on everything but the top spec. Since when is a spare tyre in a dual cab ute optional? I mean, this is insane. This is one of the things that you would think is standard on every dual cab ute, and it certainly has been on every one that I've ever driven. And to think here that it is an optional extra to have a spare tyre on your dual cab ute, just because it's a plug-in hybrid and you want to achieve these fuel economy figures, is genuinely alarming. All right, so let's have a look at more of these specs as a whole. So they've detuned that internal combustion engine. So now it makes 138 kilowatts of power and 411 newton meters of torque. So remember, this used to be 200 and something kilowatts of power, so over 200 kilowatts of power, and they use this engine in the Volkswagen Amarok. It hasn't been used in any other Ford Ranger products for Australia. Combined output, 207 kilowatts and 697 newton meters. So that combined output comes courtesy of a 75 kilowatt e-motor that's sandwiched between that engine and the transmission. And that's what gives you that extra acceleration and that extra burst, with a battery of 11.8 kilowatt hours. And that is for a driving range of virtually nothing on electric alone. They have said that this has different modes that allow you to charge the battery with the engine, allow you to run it on EV alone, etc., etc. So it's got all that good stuff. It's got power out as well, so you can actually run devices outside of the vehicle. So all of that looks pretty good. But again, compare that to the GWM Canon Alpha, and the reason I'm comparing it to the GWM is it has the same rated towing capacity of 3.5 tonnes, because remember, this is what Ford said was going to be its point of difference. Well, in actual fact, it's the same over here with the Canon. The Canon, on the other hand, 180 kilowatts out of its 2-litre turbocharged engine. So already there, you're over 40 kilowatts up, which is going to give you a big difference when it comes to that battery potentially being expired. They've also got a chunkier electric motor, 120 kilowatts. So it gives you a system output of 300 kilowatts and 750 newton meters. So it is a much bigger package, and also a much bigger battery as well, 37.1 kilowatt hours. So it is a huge battery, and it gives you over 100 kilometres of driving range when running on EV alone. So those figures alone tell a huge story. Now, the other one that kind of took me by surprise as well, Ford has increased the GVM of the Ranger plug-in hybrid, but if you get your maths out, you've got a payload that's quite reasonable, in fact, when it's empty, and this is talking about maximum payload on the top spec vehicle, 795 kilos. So pretty good there compared to 535 kilos of payload on the GWM. So already you're up there when you're not towing. But if you decide to tow at the capacity, which is 3,500 kilograms, and you have a look at the GCM of the Ford Ranger, and you do a little bit of maths, GCM is 6580, so if you do 6580 minus the maximum curb weight of 2705, minus a 3,500 kilo trailer, talking about 375 kilograms of payload. That is not a great deal, and that means that once you add a couple of passengers, remember curb weight is exclusive of passengers and accessories, once you add a couple of passengers, you're going to be slim on the amount of payload you can have. So you are virtually towing a caravan, couple of passengers and 1 or 2 items, or perhaps a couple of kids, and that is it. You're not going to be putting anything in the tray, you're not going to be adding any accessories, because you will be over the vehicle's GCM. Compare that to the Canon Alpha. It has a GCM of 6745, minus the vehicle's curb weight of 2775, minus 3,500 kilos, towing capacity is 470 kilos. So you're up by about 100 kilos over the Ranger, and it's much closer than the vehicle's rated towing capacity when it's empty too. So look, I know that it sounds like I've berated the Ranger here. I haven't driven it. I know nothing what it's like. It might be the best vehicle in the world to drive. I'm looking forward to driving it as well, but these stats alone, I mean, it just makes me wonder why anyone would buy this. They've released it after the 1st of April, so the subsidies for novated leases for FBT exemption are gone. Same thing for the Canon, but your asking price is around $10,000 more than the GWM, which is significantly better in every single measure that I can sort of tell here. So, well, outside of the payload without any towing. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. It just really confuses me why Ford hasn't really done the research here on what the Chinese were bringing to Australia. Perhaps they didn't know BYD was bringing the Shark and GWM was bringing the Canon Alpha plug-in hybrid, but I just think it is naivety on their part. Perhaps they've been resting on the laurels of Ranger being such a successful model, and they thought, well, this will do the job just nicely. Well, I just don't think it will. So anyway, Looking forward to driving it, and I'm looking forward to sticking our 3 kilonewton trailer dyno on the back of it. Same story with the Canon Alpha, because at 138 kilowatts of power, this thing is going to struggle big time. So I'll be very keen to see how that goes and whether it does the same thing that the BYD Shark did, where it just collapses in a heap once the battery runs out. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you reckon Ford's muffed up with this? Do you think that perhaps it'll be better once you actually drive it? Like I said, I'm keen to have a drive. We'll see how it goes, but at this stage, I mean, it just doesn't look all that promising if these numbers are anything to go by. Let me know if you've been shopping for one of these. Did you take delivery of a BYD Shark? What has it been like? Are you waiting for the GWM to come out? Are you fussed that the government isn't extending FBT exemptions for plug-in hybrids? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.